Welcome to the Belly Dance Stories podcast, a multimedia production directed by Alexandra Molina and Valerie Molinari.
You will hear inspiring conversations and learn about the ways belly dance has become a powerful channel of transformation in people's lives. Welcome, everybody, to the Belly Dance Stories podcast. My name is Alexandra Molina.
And I am Valerie Molinari.
And we just want to light a candle to get this conversation started, I think, right?
Yeah, we're going to do it the correct way. So you guys already know this is a brujita type of thing. So we have this beautiful candle that it was created by LuMo Designs, one of our vendors of Belly Dance Stories, which she's actually Alexandra's sister, Luisa. And she created a special fragrance for us called the Myth of the Feminine. And it's delicious.
I'm going to read it. A mysterious and captivating fragrance of amber and musk infused with splashes of jasmine, patchouli, sandalwood, and other essential oils. Oh, it smells so good. I love this.
It's great. It's
what
delicious.
a great way to start a podcast.
Yes.
Actually, this is the first time that we light a candle in one of our podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
We're starting the correct way.
Feels good.
How do you feel, Alex?
Oh
It's been
Okay, let's count.
5 days after our production.
Yes,
Did you have time to rest?
I did.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I finally did. I finally feel like, okay, I'm in July. Like I feel like after you finish such a big project, it takes a little while until you kind of like ground yourself, go back, because you do so much, you deliver so much. And we had a spectacular event, but it's been months of planning and working every day basically on it.
Every day. We started in the fall of last year of 2023 with having these conversations about the theme, and then it rolled into January, and then we were like, okay, it's January, let's hit this. But we started with the Myth of the Feminine as casual conversations, and today we're in our podcast, we're going to talk about the role of a director and a producer. They're two different things, but in the belly dance community, we kind of had to overlap them. And we're also going to talk about a few of the highlights from the show, as well as building an audience and how we do that. I'm really excited. This is a podcast. I just want a side note here. This is a live recorded podcast with HGAB Studios. And I'm very excited because they're one of our sponsors and they have supported us tremendously. So we're super thankful. We have our producers here. You don't see them, but they're on the side. We have Chris and Clyde. Thank you so much for doing this and for coaching us through this live recorded podcast, because there are no edits.
Exactly. It's raw.
It's raw. So side note done. Let's get into the Myth of the Feminine.
So how did we started with this show? So Alex and I, we just go through very intense conversations sometimes. And we knew that for this edition, we wanted it to have like a frame, like a concept that it could help us interconnect the stories. And one day, I think I was probably complaining to Alex about how trendy the conversation about balancing your feminine energy, connecting with your feminine energy. I started to notice that it was becoming very popular in different fields. Like I could hear people talking about the importance of a woman being in her feminine energy for the success of their relationship. Also, connecting with your feminine energy in order to have more balance in your life. And I had a lot of questions because some of this information I found, some of them look like a rebranding of gender roles, and some of them, they really look like a great proposal, right? And we talk about it, we let it there, and then a few days later, I think it was something like that, you told me, you don't even remember.
It's a blur.
It's a blur.
It just happened.
It's a blur. I believe you sent me a message and you're like, hey, I'm having my coffee and I was thinking that, what do you think about calling the show The Myth of the Feminine? And we can go over those conversations that we had in such a broad topic, and I'm like, wow, what a great idea. Because for me, as an artist, as a producer, I firmly believe that I wanna be a reflection of what's happening nowadays in my present and my surrounding. So I thought that it was such a genius way to bring a topic that it's so trendy nowadays and discuss it with our community.
Yes, and we had also had suggestions from some of our colleagues and our close friends to
Editors.
editors that we work with for the production to for this time for volume 3 to have a theme. And we kept going on, and actually I was a little scared to bring this theme to your attention because it is femininity, and if you're going to question that, you're going to open a can of worms and you're going to open Pandora's box. And I wasn't sure how this would phase, but I was also very excited and curious to see and let the dancers in our community, because this Miami community of belly dancers is incredible. We have so much talent, and we have a lot of beautiful minds that think about things, and we've had these casual conversations before with them. But also the term femininity, again, is very broad. So I wasn't sure. And so then I added myth to it, because with mythology, with the study of mythos, is basically the study of storytelling. And that is what Belly Dance Stories is about. We're storytelling. We're trying to capture the essence of the woman of today, like you said, and see how she's doing and what are her thoughts in today's world, and not think about so much of the past, but also how it's been changing. So mythology changes depending on the region, the world where you are, and also the evolution of a person or of a community. And with belly dance, as we know very well, belly dance has evolved tremendously, very quickly in a short amount of time, considering history, you know?
And the topic of femininity, which is something that we also talk, is so heavily involved in the way we consume and we practice belly dance, specifically in the West. There's also the myth of belly dance, that it's a feminine dance exclusive to female bodies. And it sounded like a perfect vehicle to have this conversation, because at the same time, we could deconstruct the myth of belly dance too. And just like Alex says, through the evolution of belly dance stories, it's been really great that we've been noticing that we've been attracting dancers that are interested in exploring more deeply with their dance. There's a lot of people that have performing more shows, and one of the things that they're more thankful is that they're able to do this type of work that is not necessarily completely focused and aesthetic, is that it requires a lot of work. And for us as dancers to even to produce a show with this concept, we had to do so much research, right? It was a little bit different than the previous parts in the previous shows, because in the previous shows, everybody was coming with their stories. But this time, we did have like a lens that it could kind of like help give a cohesion to all these stories. But with that come educating our dancers about it, telling them about our perspective, letting them also give us more information for us to play with. And it was a fascinating journey, Alex.
It really was.
It was so good. And we had fun. We had our struggles at certain point, but we definitely had fun also in the process.
I think that first part of asking ourselves what is the story of your theater show and your production was so important. And I think as a producer and a director, you are asking yourself that, right? What is the story of your show? or at least that is the difference between us and recitals. So recitals of studios are, you have a collection of dancers. They all are basically thematically separated. And we try sometimes in recitals to have a theme. Maybe it's styles, or maybe it's colors, or some sort of theme to it. But to have an actual storyline that runs through the production and the collaborations that we have, and that we'll talk about in a little bit, I think that makes it more of like a production. And it's rare to see that, right? With belly dance, it's a little rare to see that there are theater productions with some sort of, a storyline.
They're not that common.
They're not as common.
They're not as common. I think precisely because doing dance theater is challenging too. It has its challenges. Also, there's a little bit of improvisation on our side, because in the creative process, we bring the idea to the performers, then we receive all that information, and then we get to organize it.
Yeah, let's talk a little more about what the process is for us.
So first we do a submission. So we're very democratic in that way. So we really open the space to people that want to come to us and present and be part of the show. And we got very interesting, solid submissions, applications that we got so excited.
We had serious submissions.
We had some people that I was like, when I read the submissions and I saw the project, and I was like, okay, these ladies have been thinking for a while that they want to be part of our show. Like they were very serious. And in that application, we asked a couple of like really simple things, right? What will be your story about? Do a little draft. Send us a little video, nothing too crazy, of 1 minute, just for us to have an idea, right? And start that, start thinking, start those creative juices running. And it was interesting because the ladies that apply, they understood the subject so well.
And it was partially because we created this performer guide that had, it was 3-4 pages long.
You created the manual of the myth of the feminine.
I had to. I had so much fun creating that. In that performer guide, we explained the theme of our production and then the theme of the show, since our production is not just a theater show, it's a podcast, it's a dance lab. So in particular, for this time around, we explained the theme of the myth of the feminine, and also we defined what myth is in general terms, very simple. And also we asked a lot of questions in that performer guide, and that set the tone for the submissions. And I think that's why we had such great submissions.
I think also the submission had information about femininity, mythology, and then there was this question, which I think this is the difficult thing about what we did, right? It's like we educate them over the subjects, but we also have to be very concise with the information that we're giving them so it's clear. But then there was this question, what does femininity means to you? That it was such a great guideline for them to, okay, let me start answering this question and I'll see where this answer takes me in my creative journey.
Right, because as directors, what we think, and we're trying to be thoughtful and not overload our dancers with what we're asking for, which is also a written portion. And we worked on the guide together, and I think it has to do with the process of Volume 1 and Volume 2 that we learned a lot from both of those theater shows. We learned more about what we wanted, how to ask our community for their art, and in a new way, which was the written word, the creative writing that is also rare to have.
And challenging.
And
I feel that for many of us and for our participants, the majority of them, like the creative writing is the most difficult aspect. It's the one that because we're dancers. Not everybody is a writer, right? That's the part where, it's probably a little bit different than other creative processes for other shows. Um, and but it's so enriching at the same time. Like being able to conceptualize your performance can bring so much clarity and so much energy and enlightenment at the same time, that I feel that during the process of coaching them through the creative process, they start defining more their creative voice and their artistic voice. And at the same time, they get more creative confidence, that I feel is so important.
And you know what's interesting? I just thought about this right now. This whole process basically goes through even when you are being coached by a mentor. You know, we have soloists, we have students who come to us, take lessons with us so that they can perform at other festivals around the world. We have to ask them a lot of questions. And also when they're submitting to these festivals, they have to write a bio. They have to write about what their performance is going to be about. The more I'm, this is an opinion, but the more as a dancer that we have written down, the more clear our intention is for that performance, instead of it just being technical, or I'm going to just perform a style. So I think that by being a performer in this production, it has helped them a lot. And one more thing, we do have a performer development lab in the fall, and that is part of the work that we do with them, right?
To prepare them, because some of these tools, you can use them for every performance that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel there's been something very successful in the way the platform has developed, is that a lot of people, through the experience of performing with Bellion stories, they start understanding and reinforcing a personal relationship with their dance that goes beyond wanting to gain applauses or approval, right? And I think that's something very that I as a producer and director, I feel very satisfied about the outcome and how those performers feel after performing in the show. It's like, okay, how does this experience change or affect the relationship that you have with dance?
And yes, 100%. And a lot of our performers this time around, and the other two times after they got off of the stage, I think they felt very satisfied hearing themselves speak and going through this performance that they've been working on for so long. I also feel pretty satisfied and happy. I hope the performers do as well.
Yeah, I think this third time we got better on inspiring and motivating our performers, because we already know a couple of things. We know that when they're coming to HGAB to record their voices, it's a new experience that sometimes for many of them could be empowering, but for others could be like, oh my God, how my voice sounds. And it's also another performance too, because while they're recording their voices, they need to perform their story through their tone of their voice. So there's a lot of layers too that go under. And I think we did a really good job on holding their hand. This time, our general rehearsal was very beautiful, because the day before the show, we get to sit down, and it's the day that we actually see the entire show. And this time, we created like a circle with our performers, where they had the opportunity to not only practice their piece, but also talk to their piece with other performers and other people that were part of the show. And I think that was so beautiful and so powerful, that they got to hear the stories of other ladies. They got the opportunity to react to them too, and then being together on Sunday backstage, like I felt like everybody was really connected, because the Saturday rehearsal became like a VIP experience, like a more intimate show where you get to talk to the dancer, ask them about the details, and it was so special.
It was. I think that was one of the biggest lessons we learned this time around. And to every time it gets better, right? Every time we learn something new. And I think this one was one of the most important ones, is to take advantage of the rehearsal as directors, and in between while the light is getting set up on the tech box, to interact with all of them, because they sit with us in the theater space as in the audience. So we improvise this, and that's so special about the dynamic that you and I have, is we have fun improvising when there's, you know, something that we feel needs a connection. So we're always alert to who we are working with. It's, and I always tell you this, it's like we are the host of this party, and we want to make them feel comfortable. So I think every time we learn something new, and by moving the microphone around, we had a microphone. So you did so well with that. I was on the tech, I was coordinating the technician box, but you did so well with that. And asking them, hey, come here, you know, come stand, and what is your story about? Let's get to know you a little better, because not all of them know each other. So,
Exactly. Some people, they have never seen each other. I have a group of students that this was their first belly dance experience, but then we have Kelly and Amida that are like professional dancers that have been doing this for a long time. So I thought that it was a great opportunity for us to learn from each other. And I want to go, Alex, to the question about the difference between the producer and the director, the roles of each one of them, because something that I am very grateful of working with you is that us as director, we really care a lot about our dancers. Like they are, or everything that we do in belly dance stories, it's coming from the question of how can we give back to them? What do they need? Right? So, in order for us to have this intimate experience where they're telling personal stories and bringing and trusting us on sharing that experience, we also have to kind of like be grateful to them, and we have to kind of like, you know, don't pay too much attention to, not pay, it's more about balancing between what you have to do, right? The branding, the flyers, and bringing everybody to class. But once you have them there, you really have to connect with them. You really have to show love. You really have to show respect. And I feel Belly and Stories for us has been a great platform for us to nurture our group of women in such a novel and beautiful way, because they come to the show and then we do a ladies' night for us to connect, and during the creative process also, when we have different hats in this production, right?
So the producer is the one that comes up with the theme, does all the background work, the research, brings in the money and the funding, makes the connections, builds that audience. But the director is the one that, and this is from what I understand, the director is the one that works with the cast, the crew, gets the idea from the producers, works with the cast and the crew, and they're the ones that organize. They're the managers of the people and the work that's being deployed.
And the artistic presentation and the
And the
artistic
presentation.
structure.
Exactly. So yes, we have to flip hats several times, not just as producers and directors, but we're also the teachers of a few of the choreographies and the
We're the
soloists.
choreographers
We're
too.
the choreographers too, yeah. And sometimes the performers. And that's very difficult to be, for example, a soloist artist in the production, which is why we don't like to dance.
I've done this for a long time. I have a little bit of more experience producing events than Alex, even though she has participated in many of them. But I remember telling you, I don't like to produce and
Yes.
perform at the same time. It's not my thing. I respect, high five to everybody that does it. But I like to be fully in my producer or my director's hat.
I agree because I performed for this one twice, one with my group, my Oriental Debki, and the finale number that we did. And I was running back and forth. And the thing is, the show runs so quickly. So, yes, going back to the roles of the producers and directors, it's a choice that we make to not perform or at least minimize the performance aspect of it, because we decided that that is something more of value to us, to put our energies into giving the energy, giving the love to the performers, giving the attention to everything that is moving, all the moving parts. We're there. We're like the puppet masters. So I think that for those who are looking into producing and directing shows, not just theater shows, but any sort of large event, we recommend that you don't perform, even though they want you to, but it will strain your energy and your levels. I was actually fine the next day since I barely performed. I was good. I know you were exhausted, but I was not as exhausted as other events that I've done before. And yeah.
I think that if you're a dancer that wants to produce an event, many dancers produce events actually as a way to take their name out there, which is not a bad idea. But I think the mindset in which you are creating that event, it's very important. I think sometimes we see the shows and we're like, okay, if Alex and Valerie are doing this, I just need a friend and I'm going to be able to do a theatrical production and that's it. The army of people that you need to be able to run a 1 hour show is a lot. And that is something that if you are interested in creating a show that you are gonna be producing and performing, you do need like a solid support system, because there's so many things that happens in a live theatrical or production setting in an event that sometimes if it's only you, everybody wants to talk to you. Meaning if there's a technical issue, they're going to come to you. If there's somebody that doesn't have a chair, they're going to come to you. If your students need a question about this part of the choreography, they're going to come to you. The dancer that is lost in the parking lot because she's going to come to you. So there's so many people relying on you, and all of those people that are contacting you are important for the success of your event. So you need to start developing a team that could help you run the event. And producing also requires not only that you know what you're doing, not only is to find the theater and the place to do it, right? Because when people think about it, it sounds very simple, right? Find the place, time, do the flyer, that's it, sell it. And it's not like that. For an event to be successful, in order for you to run it on time, on schedule, in order for you to sell tickets, there's so many big efforts that you need to structure and organize before everything.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
Big answer, long story made short. We think this is one of the most important tips, is to build your network.
Build relationships.
Build relationships. That's the answer made short. But it's more complicated than that.
It's short. Yeah. I think that, first of all, you need to ask yourself, why are you doing an event, right? If you're doing an event, let's say in our case, where you want to do a hafla because you want dancers to have more opportunities to perform, that at the same time generates an economy around it, where your colleagues can actually start having their students coming more to class because the performance works as an incentive, right? You have that. You have the idea of creating a production because you want to take your name out there. It's going to help you also to create a space where you actually can present your work too. So an event can have so many impacts in not only your career but on your and your surroundings. And when we talk about networking and building community, that is so essential. And we've been this year specifically, we put a lot of effort on networking outside of our Belliance bubble, like big time. And I think it was great because I even remember when we went to this amazing colleague that is a musician. Her name is Stephanie. She had this amazing event called Primavera Unplugged. Oh my God, the event was so beautiful, was so well done. The next day I was like, I'm so ready to work on Valiant Stories. So there's also this thing about attending to other events with a more scientific mind where you're like, okay, this is how they're putting the entrance, this is the decoration, the name of the event is this, she's having this host, this is the artist. Like, I go to events and I'm constantly paying attention to everything.
Okay, I also want to just add here that when Valerie and I go to events, we're also like, we just start talking and we just start working.
Yeah.
And we have friends that are around us, and then we're just like on the side, like, okay, but you know, this and this, we gotta, but that is part of producing and directing. We're in constant conversation all the time. I message you sometimes randomly, and I'm just like, hey, I was this question, this idea, da 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 da, and it's the constant conversation. But there's also the important mindset that you are having fun creating, right? And that your partner or your co-producer or co-director, whoever you're working with, has that mindset as well to receive the random crazy thoughts that you have, sit with it, talk it over. Hey, we went to this event, it sparked this idea, and that's part of the building a relationship and the networking is that we get refreshed from going to these events. And one of the goals that I had this year was to burst our belly dance bubble and to get out of that bubble. And I really wanted to just network outside of our community because there's so much potential in Miami. Miami's huge. And you were like, let's do it. So we did it. We joined some networking events. We're still doing that. And Primavera Unplugged was one of those that we met through this other networking event. So yeah, the refreshing part about that is you're building outside community, and that will help.
And the importance also of the networking is that you can bring your entire network to your event. Something that I found particularly very fascinating about creating an event is the idea of gathering everybody together to share an experience. And with that, I always try to think like how will people will feel from the moment they open the door of the theater. You know, from the moment they go to the theater, where is the theater located? What is the surroundings of the theater? How does the experience of the event start prior to the event? And then in this case, this is the third time that we are doing multidisciplinary interactions also. To do this event, we did a couple of things different. We did experiential marketing.
Experiential marketing, yes. We did that with HGAB Studios for our Capturing Motion event. That's the most recent one that we've done.
Could you define experiential marketing for people? Which is very fascinating.
Yeah, it's a term that I just learned. Experiential marketing is basically you take your brand, your community with you, and you create an outside event experience for other new people to potentially new clients to come and see you and meet you. And also in this time around, we added the element of collaboration with another company. So we created this event that was a photography capturing dancers or capturing motion, any sort of movement artist. And we hosted, it was 4 hosts. It was me, Valerie, Andres, and Kendrick. And they had so much fun meeting. So basically you get belly dancers, which were a lot of them, and then photographers, and they've never met before. And then you get, you get them coming together and they meet and then they make new connections because we did that for them. But then they remember, oh, Belly Dance Stories. Oh, HGAB Studios. So it's a little bit about experiential marketing and one example. But I'm still learning.
One example on how you can open more your possibilities of collaboration and work differently. We did capture emotion also because we were looking for photographers for our event, because if we get good photography, we have a badass social media too. But at the same time, we knew that, we also have something to give back to photographers. So if we have a show that we could have a potential photographer that could actually make money out of our production, even better. You can create a solid economy around your event, that it's a collective, right? So there's all this benefit that goes like, okay, we're gonna do an event where photographers can connect with dancers. We train dancers how to work better for the camera. We give that educational tool for them. We help photographers also to expand their niche and their opportunities. And then at the same time, we're also getting content for our future projects. So there's a way in which you can start thinking about producing an event and think beyond the benefits that it could have for yourself. And the more you think in community, the more you can grow in all directions. It means financial. The more people you get involved, the more people will gonna come to your event. Personal, you get to meet other people, creators in the same level and the same curiosity that you have. So it's so enriching in so many different ways. But the networking, I feel, is kind of like a lifestyle. Like, it's not that you are like, oh, I'm gonna go to this network event and like just participate. No, no, no. You gotta really show up for your people. You gotta nurture those relationships that, you meet someone here, you think it's a good prospect, go to their event, go to their activities. You have to continue following up and building those relationships step by step.
It's an opportunity mindset as well as a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's a habit. And
it's a habit. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk a little more about the collaborations that we've done, because in all of our shows, we have a structure that it's a book. So we have a prologue, chapter 1, chapter 2, and epilogue. And we also collaborate to do multimedia art with our event. And we have goals and projections to hopefully do more in the future. This time around, we collaborated with HGAB Studios and Maison de Mosaics. And it's a fun little story. My partner, Andres, came to me, and he is the founder of Maison de Mosaics. And he goes to me, I want to make some more commercials for my business. And I have all these ideas, and I love storytelling and mythology. And I have, 10 ideas. And I read them, and I said, man, baby, this one about the 7 veils, this would be really cool to do for Belly Dance Stories. And he didn't even think about that. He's excited to create work for his own business. And he also works with HGAB Studios. He's their CFO and part of the marketing department. So one of the advantages of networking and also collaborating with others is that we all start entwining ideas, and just everything kind of mishmashes. People get excited, and then this person says, oh my God, I'm excited to do this. I like your idea. And it just comes together. So we took that idea of the 7 veils. He worked with HGAB to film it, and it was just such a cool idea. He asked me to be a part of it. I didn't intend to, but I was part of it, and that became our prologue, because it was a story about Inanna and the Mesopotamian goddess, and her descent into the underworld. So what that collaboration just came out so beautiful. So why don't we take a moment and watch it?
Let's do that.
Let's do that.
What a beautiful video. It's so epic. And I think this story that you're telling about how do you collaborate with this artistic project with your partner is also a great example that when we think about collaborations, you can start with your immediate people around you, which sometimes even make it better because he knows you very well. He has already shoot you many times. So the process, it's even flows better. But when we talk about collaboration and networking, doesn't necessarily means that you have to go immediately to a stranger. It's that you can start with the people around you. We had for when we started Belly and Stories, a lot of our village is the people next to us. Nesty, your brother, is the one that did the sound engineering for
Sound
us.
engineering, yeah. Yes.
So there's a power also on collaborating and bring the people that is next to you with you.
It's very exciting to have them be a part of your event, especially, well, for example, my brother Nestor, who is a musician and he's worked in radio. He's worked in all sorts of, in the industry of music, but he has the equipment for it. And for him to collaborate with me is just
Easy.
It's easy. He knows me, I know him, and it's all for the art. So, and that's what we value. So find people who value the art. Find people, and I mean, it's not as easy. Also, it's also, some people might give you a little hard time and scheduling and timing, but I think that's also part of being a producer, is that you learn how to communicate better with others and learn how to work with the different type of artists or the different type of people that are in your circle. And that is just, that's important.
Yeah, and it's that part of like, I feel right now we both of us, since we had an academic background in arts, we already have network connections that we developed since college. So whenever we need anything, we do have a lot of people to call. And that's what you want to do, that networking and that collaborating thing, in order for you to be able to ask for help. At a certain point, we had an issue with our graphics. We did like a revamping of our logo and the myth of the feminine. Alex is the one that usually do her graphic design, but she's not a graphic designer. She's a visual artist, which means that she understands that. But then at a certain moment, she was like, you know what? Let me call Maki. And who's Maki?
So Maki Designs is one of our sponsors, but Maki Natalia Ortelli is a old high school friend of mine. And she also belly danced, and she also did Indian dance with Nara. So we know her from the community. We know her and she knows us. And I was like, you know what? This is a person that I trust. I know how she works, and she gets stuff done very well and really nicely, but she's also in constant communication with you. So I needed help. And that's also another big lesson is when you need help, let people help you. And you have suggested to me in a few times before, you're like, Alex, why don't we get someone else to do the graphic design and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. Until this time around, I was able to just let it go and be like, yes, Val, I need help. We need to pay somebody. And she was a tremendous help because we knew what we wanted. And she was in our network. She lives in North Carolina, but it doesn't matter.
But she understands
She understood.
the industry that we're in.
Exactly.
So, and she was pretty fast with everything with her.
Very
So
fast.
it's important, people.
It's very important. So working with HGAB is also a blessing because they are all sorts of creatives. There's not just photographers and videographers here. There's people who are in AI and tech. And there's people who, I mean, you meet all sorts of people at HGAB. So they were also the perfect team to work with as well. And it was so easy. It was so smooth. Andres did all of the directing and the producing too with HGAB. I just came and I stood and I danced and that's it. That's all I did. Well, I edited a little bit afterwards, but I also am not a videographer. I'm not a photographer trained professional, but I do love to edit videos and graphics.
Which I'm very thankful
Oh.
because I'm like not a techie person at all. I'm with the Flintstones and I let her work with that aspect.
And I let her work with the communication also. So yeah, we have to give ourselves, which is one of the wonderful things about having a partner. It's just, yeah, you have another person there to back you up. If it's maybe one other person or maybe two other people in your team, they say 4 is a golden number, and also 2, a partnership, because there's so much to do and there's so much to think about that you do want to give tasks or you want to give them away to other people who are better at better at doing
things,
that, than you are. And yeah, for sure. So let's see. Should we move on to our dancers?
Do a recap of what happened in the show?
I love it. Let's do it. We're ready for it.
So one of my favorite performances this year was Leah's. Leah is one of our solo artists. She's a professor of Barry University, and she created and performed this sultry, sassy drum solo that I have to even look for the song and send it to a friend that came to the show because she couldn't stop asking me for the music of that she danced. And she presented a piece called A Study of Contrast. And it was very interesting because it started like Dorothy was asked, right, doing like a reference to the Wizard of Oz, are you a good witch or a bad witch? And her reflection was like, why do I have to choose? And it was like a very interesting, simple, almost casual text where she was actually questioning and challenging the ideas that women have to be unidimensional, right? That they have to be either a good girl or a bad girl, and you can't be both. And her being a professor we expect that women also in the professional fields, they hold a certain type of behavior depending on their job, right? Because she's a professor, she gets to be a serious woman. She, she doesn't belly dance, she doesn't dance. She has to have this decorum in the way she behaves. And she just went there, and I was like, oh my God, this is my type of class.
We were both like,
It
wow.
was so sexy, which is something that I have not even seen that side of her. And she did it so bold.
See, I don't know her. This is the first time I meet her. And although she performed at the first belly dance stories,
Yeah, but with the troupe.
but with the troupe,
With the troupe.
with the fusion troupe, and she's a fusion dancer. And yeah, her everyday life is a professor, is an academic persona woman. But then when we first had a Zoom meeting with her, because we also have to connect with them obviously before they come and they do their audio, their narration in studio. And I was like, interesting. Her voice is soft.
Super soft.
She's
super
so
soft.
nice. She's so receptive. And the story was very simple and clear, but also put together with this because okay, so the song goes.
That was so good.
It's just so good because it was just whenever we get it on YouTube, you guys have to hear it because it was so perfect and her performance itself was sultry and there were some movements that she did that were how do I say
They
evocative.
were very sexy. For me, it felt like a burlesque belly dance thing because when burlesque was born, the idea was for women to make fun of their social expectations, right? And I felt that that's what she was doing. She was like, I'm dancing sexy, but at the same time, it felt like a little like, I don't want to say satire, but I felt that she was, I'm like, I'm not going to do what you guys are expecting me to do as a professor. I'm just going to have fun and I'm going to do it on my way and I'm going to question it. I'm going to challenge it. And yeah, there's something very powerful when you see a performer really, how do I say, claiming their sensual and sexual power that it feels like everybody was into it. Like we all laugh when we saw her in the Saturday show. Like the reactions were on point at the moment.
We laughed in a very good way because we understood, we connected.
We connected.
And one of the beautiful things of the platform of belly dance, at least in the West, we are able to play with those boundaries, and she did that. And she was able to even play with the boundaries within her own life. And because we heard her narration and because we heard her asking these questions, are you a good witch or a bad witch? Are you, supposed to be this, supposed to be that? We connected with her performance and we understood why she was dancing the way that she did, had the red tones in the lighting and the music was so perfect for this performance. It was very thoughtful.
Very thoughtful. I don't think I will dare to dance that song. Now I want to dance it after I saw her, but the song was like very like the entire time.
But it's so
good.
It's an Artem Uzunov song.
It's
and
Artem.
He does that. And we know he does that for those who are aware of his music. They're mixed with voice and drums.
Some sexy voices. There's always a sexy voice.
But we love his music. I love his music.
It's so appealing too for general audience. But hers, like his other songs are like, you wanna dance? Like it's not like like it's like like there's all type of thoughts that come to my head when I heard that.
And it was her intention.
It was,
and I know it.
Yeah.
Having an intention is important because then you get up on that stage and you're confident about it and you can see it. You can see it in her performance. And I'm so grateful for Leah hers was so memorable for
It
me.
was so memorable. And I'm going to add, if it wasn't for that text, that performance wouldn't probably had the same amount of impact. Like that text where she's questioning and she brings Dorothy to the table, like such a pop culture icon. Are you a good witch or a bad witch? We're kind of like already questioning that. And then she comes and starts dancing in this sassy, sultry way. You're like, oh, I get you. I get you. And for me, that's one of the things that I been battling a lot in my personal life, in the way that, for example, for me, my belly dance character, it's out there. Everybody knows that I'm a belly dancer. And sometimes that has an impact in the way people interact with me, even though they already learned to like negotiate with that. But at some point, sometimes when people don't know you, they think that because you are a belly dancer, that means that I'm supposed to be more sexually available, or, you know, I'm promiscuous, or, I'm more open. And that is not necessarily the case. So I felt that with her piece being a study of contrast, brought a lot of those perceptions and questioned them too.
Yes, it's worth it to recap or to look deeper into the performances of belly dance stories, because all of them are very thoughtful, all of them, from volume 1, volume 2, and volume 3. And we do that in the art world. We create, let's say, a painting, and we go through the process, and then you have critiques afterwards, because you're looking deeper into what happened. And then some of the times you have the artist there to talk to you more about what has happened in the process of creating a painting. So it's worth it to look into these performances, because even they're so ephemeral on stage. In that one day of the year, you see this person perform this one solo that they're never going to do again. And then you're able to talk about it afterwards, and then come up with more of a discussion about, oh, okay, so maybe that's what that meant. And I think Leah's brings up these questions that are almost universal. Maybe not almost, they are universal.
They are universal, yeah. And like in my case, I'll tell you this because it's the way the piece resonates with me. But for somebody else, they probably have a very different perception. They perceive it, they felt it differently. And that's so interesting.
And that's the beauty about art, is it's able to do that for us. Let's I want to segue into Kelly and Amita. Because Kelly and Amita's duet was the number before the epilogue. And that one came to us as such a blessing. These are women who have been in our community longer than me, and they are professional dancers. This is what they do as a living. So we had a lot of good contrast in the show. There were dancers who are not professional belly dancers, and then we had some other ones who are professional belly dancers. Now, Kelly and Amita are some of the most beautiful people I have ever met, inside and out. And you know them better than I do. You know them longer than I do. Can you talk a little more about Kelly and Amita's duet and how it came to us to invite them to the point where we learned about their story and what they were going to say?
So Kelly and Amida are students of Virginia Mendez, which is one of the big choreographers and big belly dance artists that we have here in Miami. And I knew them first as students of her and as members of the dance troupe that Virginia used to have. And I met them Miami Belly Dance Convention 2009. I believe that they won the troupe category, and I won the solo. And from there, I know these two ladies basically as a pair. Like I know that they're very good friends. But the last time that I saw them together was probably performing together easily 10 years ago or a little bit more. And that troupe of Virginia, at the moment with Kelly and Amida, was a very powerful troupe. Like I remember waiting for a show to see them and like always be very mesmerized and impressed with the level of dancing of that troupe because it really felt like Broadway and belly dance. And after that, they both continue like on their life. Kelly focused more on choreographing for kids, which she is a ridiculous, amazing choreographer. And Amida has been also like a top working dancer in the Miami night scene. And both of them are incredible, but it's been due a long time to see them performing on stage together. So from the moment that they reached out to us and they were like, "Can we do a duet?" We were like, "Are you kidding me? This is history."
Volume 1, I think, is when they came to us after that show that they saw.
Yeah.
And they just did it. They told us, as I remember, as a joke.
Oh, we want to do a duet.
we
Oh,
wanna do a
yeah.
duet.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And I looked at them and I'm like, don't
They
joke about
drop
that.
it as a, yeah, they said, oh my God.
Yeah.
So finally, at the third show,
We
they
were
were
like,
finally here.
you are doing a duet.
And I knew, I'm like, if this is coming from them, this is like, they really want to do this. And on Saturday, when we were doing the general rehearsal, they did it. And
Wait, hold on.
hold on.
Backtrack a little bit about
the
when they
story.
were in here
Okay.
in HGAB recording their narration together, because that was when they popped that surprise.
Exactly. So they brought the story. We read it. We weren't really sure about what it was or how it was going to be presented.
It was a little vague.
It was a little vague. We knew the idea,
We trusted them.
but we trusted them too. So basically, their piece was like a genesis of their relationship and how did they met. And they met years ago when they were teenagers in the dance room. And Amida was particularly jealous about Kelly, which we didn't knew.
We didn't know. And quick side note, we will have them on a podcast in the future where we will interview them a little more.
We're gonna talk about it,
But
about
so you all
jealousy
know-
and dance.
Yes. And then becoming dance sisters.
And then becoming like really good friends. So their beginning was a little different or unexpected, and then their relationship through dance evolved to a point where these ladies are family. You know, they're very close to each other. Kelly is the godmother of Amida's kids, and they adore each other. And one of the things that it was very beautiful to see in the show was like through their choreography, you could also see the power of their relationship and their friendship.
Their transformation.
Their transformation. So now they're not teenagers, now they're women. And at the same time, everything was so on point. It was spectacular. It was very theatrical. I feel it's one of the performances that we had in the show where we had, you know, we have people that took theatrical dance into a different level with the storytelling, and they were very clear. Kelly has a vast experience with the theater. Like she's basically every month in a theater with her girls, so she understands the medium super well. And Amida has years of experience, but it was super powerful. I also like the topic too about friendship and female friendships being framed sometimes in a competitive way and how to overcome that, which I feel happens to a lot of people too. Like when we met another female and somehow society, ay, Dios mío, I feel educates us or push us to compete with each other sometimes. And then when we realize, we're like, this is nonsense. Like we can actually be together again, you know, instead of against each other. And I know a lot of females that will probably have similar stories where they were like, oh, I didn't like this person at the beginning. We used to hate each other. And then something happens and then they became like tight.
I think it's such a great performance to have had it towards the end, because then afterwards came the duet, the drum solo duet, and the topic of oh my gosh, what's the word? Competition is oh my gosh, that's a very loaded term. It's a very loaded conversation that I think in Kelly and Amita's situation was so beautiful, because dance is that power that brings them together, is that energy that I kind of see it as dance as the mother figure, the mother energy that had healed that competition, that competitive mindset, healed that so that it became a sisterhood. And I think that dance does that when you're dancing with someone, or it's just, it heals it. So I personify dance that way, especially in that story, as a very feminine, motherly archetype. And I think that's what Kelly and Amrita brought towards the end, now that they have had so many years of friendship and have become family. And yeah, their performance was top notch. Oh my gosh. And so the surprise was that Amita, they're spinning and they're spinning and they're spinning in part of the song. And all of a sudden, Amita falls to the floor.
Way too good. She did it way too good.
That was so good, because wow. And so they told us that this would happen, of course, so that we as directors weren't surprised. But everybody in the audience was so concerned that Amita fell, that even I was standing next to one of the stagehands and he was like, is she okay? And I'm like, it's part of it. But don't do anything. And I heard that somebody in the audience got up and they were like, is someone going to help her? And it was just so good.
Amida's kid, she was like, she didn't know.
Oh,
Zoe. So Zoe told me, yeah, I saw her on the floor. And she's like, oh my God. And then Amida screamed.
Yes.
And she's like, she wouldn't do that. That's
not
when she
mom.
realized that she's like, mom is acting. She's like, she wouldn't get up and like continue and fix it. She wouldn't stay in the floor. So I thought that was very, very funny.
And then the story of Kelly coming to her and picking her up and walking her to the back, then taking off their cloaks and you know, it was so emotional the way that they acted it, because as a dancer, you have to act as well. You're not just going through the motions of the technique, a pop and lock, hip shimmy, blah, blah, blah. You're acting out these movements and you're acting out these stories. And that's part of the fun of being a dancer, is you're going through these personalities that you're trying to come and bring out of you and present them. And I think Kelly and Amita did so beautifully with that.
And I think it was such a great example of the possibilities that female friendships can have. I think that in the dance world, particularly, like for example, us, like in belly dance, it's like, it can get very competitive. What I'm saying, like it can get catty. And I felt the way they projected that choreography, their story, it could be a great piece for people to reflect about the way that they are connecting with their colleagues. And sometimes a lot of this drama is brought to us through the environment that we're in. Do you know what I'm saying? Sometimes people are not necessary against each other. It's because somebody told her about something, or the teacher sometimes unfortunately creates a competitive environment, which is not really good. But I think that they set a very beautiful resolution for the rest of us. And I think it was perfect to have it before the drum duet, where we had at the end of the show, they finished with that piece, that duet of Amida and Kelly, and then we were coming all together, including Alexandra and I, some members of the cast too, dancing together on that idea that, you know, together we can do so much more. Yeah.
Yeah. So the structure of this theme was that it starts with more mythological performances. They're more dreamy. You start with your group, that is the Isis and Egypt, and then it molds through Cassandra of Troy, and it has more mythological narration involved. And then you get towards the end where the stories are more contemporary. In today's world, the women are talking about what's happening to them today. And the drum duet was bringing this belly dance performance with the costumes of the everyday woman. So we decided that our ladies were going to dress up as themselves, and they were going to dress up as maybe the corporate woman, or maybe I was the artist, and to have this versatile look to the drum duet and contemporary look to the drum duet, so that in the end, in the middle of the drum solo, we were then joined by belly dancers who were dressed in the belly dance costumes, my group and your group, and then they joined, and then at the end of the song, you see the dancer of today that is also mixed with belly dance, and the power of belly dance, that it creates union and it creates community, right?
Beautiful, yeah. And it was like a way of bringing the show to now, right now. Like when having women dress in their normal attire, it's like, okay, we just went through this mythological ancient stories, and now we're going to go back to where we are right now. And when we brought also the other dancers, which were the ISIS and your students, there was also this way of seeing like a chronology of time through the costumes of the ladies too. And yeah, it was the perfect way that we thought we could kind of like bring all this reflection back to now.
We took them through a journey from the old to the new. And that's what the study of mythology is kind of like that, right? You look at the old, and then you come back and you question yourself and you question your environment of today, and how does that myth relate to you? And in myth, there's lessons to learn. And then you ask yourself, are these lessons, applicable to me today? Or it's all this questioning that I like so much about our production.
Me too. That's the thing that I like the most, that once you finish the production and you go over everything, you're like, oh my God, some of these myths are still, we're still holding into them,
Yeah.
Some of them, it's good that we deconstruct them. Some of them, we can continue redefining them. And yeah, I really had a amazing time also as a choreographer with this piece. I felt that in this show in specific, I had a lot of like really powerful conversation with my troupe about femininity, and in my case, we were doing ISIS, so we were questioning the term nowadays when people say, "Oh, you're a goddess, you're a goddess, you're a goddess, dance, belly dance, and feel like a goddess." And we were somehow questioning, what does that really mean?
But what does that mean?
It means that, I get to put flowers in my hair, and like, am I supposed to start telling people what to do? So it was interesting that, this time, because we had this topic, we had so much opportunity to, work it in the context of the show. Okay, this is what we're doing, and it felt different from other times.
It did. I also had a lot of conversations with my students too, because I wanted them to be a part of the narration. So I got them involved, and we were a smaller group. It was me plus 4 of my dancers who have been with me for a long time. And I wanted to have them write me what did they think femininity meant to them. So I had them go through a little writing process, and then we had conversations in class, and then we finally recorded what we were going to say. And the theme of our performance was the graces, and what the graces represent are beauty and sensuality. And so what came about was the storyline that we were mythical figures, you know, in this performance. And so we were able to record a little bit of that. But what I'm trying to get to is that the process of the performer, of the dancers, of the students who take our choreographies, and specifically that is so beautiful. It's a process that not a lot of people understand. And I know you and I have talked about this, and not a lot of people know what happens in while they're learning the choreography, to getting excited about the costumes, coming and arriving, to rehearsing in the costumes, and then to also understanding the vision that we have for them as choreographers, and them learning how to connect with each other in the rehearsal room, on stage. It's a process, and then getting to the rehearsal, and then doing the show, and then the aftermath. So it's very complex, but long story short, it is a very powerful experience that these women have. And these women are not all professional belly dancers. Mine are not. Mine are dancers who just love to do it for fun. And they've taken belly dance classes for exercise, for their own mental health, their own physical health. The bonding that they have in classes is like no other bonding. And the bonding that they have while they're doing a theater performance is even more strong than when they're just taking a class.
It's a big project, the performance. And it takes a long period of time too, meaning that they're meeting every week. They start feeling more comfortable with each other. They have a main goal. Everybody has the same goal. And the way that they connect, it's different. It's different than if they're preparing for a solo. You know what I'm saying? Like when they're working together as a group, it's a different type of commitment, because it's not only the commitment that you have with yourself. Now you're committed to also your dance partners, and that type of it's a way of practicing solidarity. That's what I'm trying to say, and I feel that that's something that is very valuable nowadays. And sometimes in a capitalist society, we get too much into our individuality, way too much. And I feel this is one of those moments or spaces that we're offering for people to actually connect. And I feel now the word connect, sometimes people use it way too loosely, but to really connect, to really be there for each other, to really show up, to say, I don't want to go to the rehearsal, but I have this commitment with my ladies and I have to go. And for me, it looks like a beautiful practice of solidarity and a great reminder for a lot of people too. Like I even remember one of your girls telling me like how important is her dance space, because, she doesn't have too many friends anymore, and like the room becomes like coming to classes like a safe space for them to feel grounded, to feel heard, to feel that they matter. And that's a beautiful aspect of the transformation of dance, that sometimes when the audience see a group of people dancing together, they're like, oh, that's so cute. But there's so much happening and transforming before, during, and after. That's very powerful. I have some of my ladies telling me like how powerful they felt after performing, and how they're noticing now they're like daring to show up more. They're daring to be a little bit more more themselves.
More themselves,
More
and
themselves.
more bold.
More bold.
That they have a voice.
That
and
they
that
have a voice.
Yeah.
And that I don't have to question myself that much, that it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's still too much of an undermined art.
The impact of the stage. Because sometimes we go and then we don't really sometimes take too much time on reflecting, oh, how does this performing experience affected me? You know, did I felt empowered? Did I felt like, oh, I disappoint myself because the choreography, I didn't do the step correctly? and and it's important. I feel that you shouldn't be going through performances without taking a moment to actually after and see, okay, what did I learn from this? You know?
Opportunistic mindset.
Yes.
Always learning, always growing. And that's how you welcome more relationships and connections.
And mindfulness, you know, like being really present there. I think it's time, Alex, to ask each other cool questions. Cool questions.
Cool
okay?
questions.
From producer to producer. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
No.
Okay. What will you do different in the next production that you did in this one?
Okay, yeah. So this was this is a question. These are a series of questions that I wasn't prepared for.
Exactly.
That you were like, let's add it in last minute. I'm like, okay, I'll do my best. But you know, I don't know yet. Okay, what would I do different?
Take some time.
What would I do different? What went wrong was not in my control.
Tell them what went wrong.
Okay. So
we had some technical issues of the day of the performance.
Okay, so the performance day comes. Before that, everything was super smooth. And in any theater show, something is going to go wrong. I mean, that's expected. It's all right.
So
it happens.
It can happen. It can happen.
It
But we
can.
prepare ourselves not to happen.
Correct.
And I have to do a disclaimer. Wait a minute. My partner is a perfectionist. And like to a different level. Like
this is something new for me, by
this
the
is
way.
You
This
new?
I have never been a perfectionist, Valerie. No, girl, I have been a airy, like, well, not super airy. An artist that's like, okay, let's just go, you know, go your own way.
Really?
Not until I hit production mode and that I started getting like more, that I started seeing the value of what I was doing in production and in direction with you. I was like, I mean, there's some things that I could say, but I'm not a perfectionist until now.
That's so interesting. Yeah. Okay, so with being a perfectionist, because there's all type of perfectionist here, you know, she thinks about everything and she's extremely organized, okay? To the point that she asked me, I need you the name of your dancers for the
Playbill?
For the playbill, and I need them in alphabetic. How do you say it?
Alphabetical, yeah.
Alphabetical
First name
order.
alphabetical.
And I'm like, wow, she really thinks I know the alphabet. Like, I am the opposite. I am like totally free spirit. I don't really pay too much attention to the details. I'm like passionate, fiery, but I am chronically disorganized. So in that sense, it's great for me to have a partner like that can provide structure to things. And then the day of the performance comes and we are extra prepared.
Oh, so extra. I was
Like,
so happy and relaxed.
We tend to prepare basically a month before the performance. We already have everything.
Done.
And what happened the day of the show?
So we did this whole new branding with the beautiful Myth of the Feminine and the new logo. And the projector wasn't working. The projector decided while we were doing the intro speeches to start to go on the fritz and did not want to work. So we left the stage and we said, we hope you enjoy the show. We walked away. We didn't leave. We were standing backstage. We were looking at the screen, hoping that the prologue video would go through. It never did. So Valerique and I, since we're good at improvising and we're getting better at improvising, we were like, you know what, let's just go back out, stall time, all this. So we got on the mics and it actually worked out really nicely. We were able to interact with the audience more and break some of the ice there with them. But that's what happened. But why are we talking? Oh, what I would do better.
What would you do different?
What I would do
different. And this
different.
one that you felt that.
So I would, in this case, I would probably try, which I'm so happy that you were there to ground me afterwards, because I went backstage and I was so frustrated. And I think next time is I would probably breathe deeper,
When those things
when those
happen,
things
yeah,
happen.
to know that they're normal.
Well, in this case, not as normal as some, because sometimes the lights won't go on time. Yeah, that's fine. But in this case, the projector and everything that we worked on so much for so long, and the video just
It was
didn't go
one
through.
of the main
It's just-
things that well, the video was freaking stunning. You guys just saw it. And like, I was excited that it was going to create like a beautiful introduction when it comes to aesthetics, and it will start making people go into that journey. So we were not expecting to improvise, even though we did very good. We did very good. Because for me, and I think for you too, we tend to be very, we hate to talk in public, like on the microphone. Like in the past show, I had a hard time, like doing that introduction with 130 people in front of me. And it's like, I got very nervous.
And we learned from
And we
volume
learned from there.
for volume 3 to practice our speeches.
Before.
And give it a story. Give it
Yeah.
a story.
Give it a story, but practice. We really practiced this time how we were going to deliver it. And I did felt very good, like before introducing the show, because we had practice. I'm like, okay, we can do this. But yeah, once it didn't start working, they tell me, you are in the audience asking people like,
You were, not
no,
me.
you went.
Well, I had to
You
go.
brought them the microphone. So
Yeah.
you were taking the microphone to somebody, because I decided to, hey people, we're back. We're having some technical issues. Hey, what do you think about the myth of the feminine? Tell me.
My sister said after, it turned into a panel discussion almost.
It really, I had to. I'm like, El show de Cristina is going to start right now. We need the audience. What does the audience have to say? She goes, take the microphone. And around that time, I had the stage manager comes to us and tell me the most horrifying thing I have ever heard in my life. She's like, the projector is not working. We cannot put the video.
And we said, okay, let's get the show going. We had to make that quick decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I would learn for myself is more of a personal lesson. I'm sure there's something else that I could learn from this show, but I think that me as a director, and I'm so glad again that you were there to ground me and say, hey, look, we got to keep up the vibe. We're going to be okay. Let's just keep up the vibe for the performers. And it's true, which I know that, but it's very
just
different
like,
to be in shock for a moment,
yeah,
and then quickly have to pivot. So that quick pivoting is something that is a practice and not something that you just know. It's a practice.
It's a practice. And I don't know about you, but I respond, like for me, disappointment feels heavier than when I get angry. When I'm disappointed that something didn't went exactly how I was planning, it's just like brings my vibration super low, and I already know this. So if it wasn't because also we have done such an amazing job empowering the performers, and the performers were the one that were like, guys, we're having a great time. This is amazing. We're having fun. People is not paying attention to that. It was easier for me to kind of like pivot the situation and be like, okay.
They were amazing. Oh
They
my
were
God,
amazing.
They were, so
they were
amazing.
like, they were not as affected but we did put a lot of effort in that part. And
what is something that you've learned from this show?
I will never do choreography courses on Sunday. Never again. Never again. That was very difficult for me. I don't think nobody noticed, but no, I think but I performed Friday and Saturday. So we had a choreography for 8 weeks on Sundays. And like, it was like a huge act of love where I realized like I'm putting so much on this project that like I need a Sunday after performing, especially because I did have certain moments during that period where I did have like performances Friday and Saturdays. And then Sunday will come and I'm like, oh my God, I had to get up. But curiously, once I started dancing, everything will fade away. It will fade away. But I felt I needed it. There's certain Sundays that I needed it, that that relaxed Sunday.
Yeah, you're
That
not
re-
used to teaching on Sundays.
I'm not used to
Yeah,
teach on Sunday.
I've always taught on Sundays, so that's why Mondays are my days off. Like I try, but I get you.
But the
Yeah.
Peacemaker was a great place. Like I feel like I manage it well. But I remember by the fourth class, I'm like, never again, because my Friday and my Saturdays are like hectic.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest, but at the same time, I'm proud that I did that extra mile. You know, like I'm gonna do this sacrifice. Once I get there, I empowered the team. Like we did good with it, and the Peacemaker was perfect because we have this stunning, beautiful, relaxed way place that it's so. The Peacemaker is amazing.
I love that studio. I'm so thankful for that studio. It has windows. It's one of our sponsors, by the way, throwing that in there. But no, really, the Peacemaker Studio is gorgeous. It's huge. It's like 1,500 square feet,
Beautiful.
natural lighting, natural plants, and it's always nice to perform and to dance in there and take classes. But I'm very happy. Everything was beautiful. I don't think I would change anything else. No, I don't know. I've thought about this all week for this podcast. I think that everything went smoothly. I'm so grateful. I'm so happy for everything. And even the music and the audio was great. The lighting and the performers and the stories. I'm actually very excited to publish a little book about volume 1, 2, and 3 and our process as directors and producers. I think I'm going to listen back to this podcast and I'm going to take notes.
We have plans.
We have plans.
What will you keep for the next performances that you did different this year?
Ooh, there's more questions.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm so ready. This is the reason why I'm here. I want to do the questions.
we could do the questions and log them in. Repeat that question one more time.
What will you keep in our next performances of things that we did this year that we didn't do in the past?
Okay.
Yes. That's easy. That's easy.
I think that's a little easier.
That's easier.
The first thing that comes to my mind is at the rehearsal, while they're doing the cues and the lights and everything, we have somebody interacting with the performers and getting them connected and together, listening
We're
to
gonna
their
keep
stories.
that. Yeah.
I've always wanted to do that, but I always thought it would be in the form of a party or of like a cocktail hour with the performers. But I think that everybody's so busy in their lives that this was perfect. It was just a creative and a different way of doing that for them.
Because the rehearsal is long. That's the thing, that when you're doing lighting, it takes a long time. So dancers are waiting there. Like the technical rehearsal is usually not as smooth. It's not like the show that you go one by one. It takes time. But it was wonderful because some of the performers did their lighting and then they stay. They stay. So I thought that was such a good sign. I will definitely keep that.
What else would you keep?
I will keep the interaction with the audience.
You always wanted that. I know that. At the end of
Yeah.
the show, we had discussed it, but the end of the show would have been kind of funky. Interesting.
I think it was great at the beginning, like short and sweet. I liked how do we have the space of the lobby, meaning that we had like photo booth area, we had vendors. I will keep that because I think it creates kind of like a space for people to mingle and connect rather than just having them come directly to sit down. They already start kind of like getting into the flow. I will keep the myth of the feminine.
You want this theme,
I
yeah.
wanna
Myth of
keep
the-
doing it.
Part 2.
Part 2, I want to keep doing it. I loved it. I think there's a lot of things to say about it.
For those who are listening and watching or watching, let us know if you want Myth of the Feminine Part 2 and if you want more audience participation in our next productions. Let us know in the
Let us
comments
know.
or message us.
And then I will continue doing another type of event prior like capturing motion.
Another experiential
Yeah,
marketing.
I did think that was very successful on keeping everybody interested in the production, understanding, the impact of the production outside of the stage too, and the ways it can continue creating collaboration. And like what something that I mentioned you, it's like I'm aiming that the production continue working to a point where we have different type of creators around us and creating kind of like a collective economy system, meaning that if I'm having the dancers, then they can come and HGAB do the studio, but then at the same time, the day of the show, we have the amazing candles, which by the way, it smells delicious in here.
I love it.
And then we can continue supporting other women's businesses. So that's something that I really enjoy. That at the beginning I wasn't sure. I'm like, Alex, isn't this too much? Like a month before, she's like, no, we gotta continue pushing and doing it. And I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Yes.
But it turned out super well.
I remember you asking me, and you're like, is this too much? And I almost broke down, and I was like, to Andres, I'm like, is this too much? Am I like, I started crying, and I'm like, babe, is this too much? Why are we doing this? At one point, I remember asking him, like, why are we doing capturing motion? And it was my idea.
It was your idea.
But that is me overthinking things. But I knew that if we continue to be a part of the community, not just at the theater show, because chances are we wouldn't have been able to connect with our guests at the theater show. So we had to create a space and an event to connect with them before. Mm-hmm. Afterwards, it's a little more complicated because we have other events happening. For example, your love affair is happening next month. Ooh, so you're in major production mode right now.
I have to go.
Bye.
I have things to do.
But the experiential marketing was great. I wanted to bring up one thing that I just remembered people ask me all the time. Somehow I get this question a lot. How do you heal, or how do you do self-care before and after big events? And I think that this time I was very proud of myself to do self-care before, even though I wish I would have done more. Okay, that's me overthinking again. But I think I did really well with the self-care, which is why I wasn't as tired the next day.
What did you do?
Girl, I took days off, even though it might not have seen it.
I took days off, which is for me rare. Like I would have probably performed the day before of the event.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm like,
no.
And I'm like, no, I'm
No
not gonna do
performance.
this. I'm not gonna do this anymore.
Well,
Because I always forget about it. That's the thing. I kind of like forget to take that day off, and then I'm driving to the restaurant. I'm so tired.
I regret this.
Because I get tired and exhausted and I start crying. So
It's like a frustrated kind of cry.
yeah,
You're
I
like,
cry. I cry when I get tired and exhausted and when I'm doing too much.
it's worth thinking about 100% and doing it after. And I should have done more, but it's okay.
More spaces to recalibrate and like
I should have gotten a massage. I should have gone to the spa before. It's okay. I'll learn it. Hopefully do it next time.
I do also like the rush. Like for me, my brain likes to feel pressure. That I feel like I do more and like I'm more inspired and kind of like concentrated. Like that's how it works for me.
Okay, so humans love tension and release. It's natural. That's why the storytelling is based on tension and release and all of these, ups and downs. So I get that rush and that, right before something's happening, you just have to be on point.
On point.
But then you also have to remember that adrenaline is going to drop
at some point.
And you need to be ready for that.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying to you. Like I finish an event and I'm going to need 3 days, 76 hours where I just kind of like, okay, I need to exist for a moment without this project, right? Until everything sit down, and then I'm going to be fine.
Yes. And jumping off of that, real quick, I prepared myself to keep working that next day and the day after because of the post and the content that needed
Which
to
is
be
so
done
important
after.
too.
It's very important
The
to be
post
ready.
promotion is as important as the promotion before the event.
Yes. So getting that mindset ready for it. Yeah. So yeah, I think those were the bigger lessons. Well, shall we finish?
Shall we finish? Yes.
Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in to today's recap of The Myth of the Feminine, Volume 3 of the Belly Dance Stories Productions. We hope that you enjoyed it and you got a lot of information. And please follow us on Instagram at bellydance_stories, as well as on YouTube. Connect with us, talk to us. We have a performer lab coming up this fall. We also have Love Affair, that's Valerique's event coming up at the end of August. We're so excited about that. Val, do you want to add anything else?
You guys have to come to the Lebanese Love Affair with Esmeralda Colabone, which is going to be amazing. And we have an amazing group of dancers coming from different parts of the States, different countries, coming here to Miami. And we're super excited. I also want to thank everybody that came and supported the production that came last Sunday, because we did have a full house. And for me, that's the big challenge, right? How do I make people come to the theater to see our production on a Sunday night? And like, I'm very thankful for everybody that has supported this production and this project in many ways. But the fact that you guys came, it's very special for us because it's month of preparation. And we only do it once a year. So stay tuned. The lab is going to be amazing. We have more projects with Belly Dance Stories. We have books that are going to come. And yeah, connect with us. We want to learn your story.
Share with us your story. You can email us at bellydancestories@gmail.com. Thank you, everybody.